A tour of the Armstrong Browning Library begins in the Martin entrance foyer. The bronze doors provide a fitting passage between Baylor's campus and the library dedicated to Robert Browning's poetry. These doors are solid bronze and weigh 3/4 of a ton each. The doors are fashioned after the doors to St. John's Baptistry in Florence, Italy, where the Brownings lived for the majority of their married life. However, the panels on our library doors illustrate 10 of Robert Browning's poems rather than 10 events from the Bible. On the sides of the doors, there is a pattern of bells and pomegranates. This is a motif repeated throughout the library. You can see red pomegranates and blue bells in many of the stained glass windows, and they are also used in the border of the floor of this room. This motif was chosen to be a recurring theme in the library building because Robert Browning published several of his early poems in a series of 8 pamphlets titled Bells and Pomegranates. It is believed that the bells refer to the music of poetry, and the pomegranates, a fruit containing hundreds of seeds inside, symbolizes the many meanings found within the lines of his poems. The European and Renaissance influences throughout the building are a reference to the Brownings' married life in Italy and their travels through Britain and France. One of the hallmarks of the Armstrong Browning Library is its beautiful stained glass windows. With 62 stained glass windows in the building, we are believed to have the largest collection of stained glass in the United States. The majority of these illustrate Robert Browning's poetry. Dr. Armstrong wanted the building to provide visitors a sense of what Robert Browning's poetry was about, even if they had never read one of Browning's poems. Additionally, he hoped that the grandeur of the buildings would inspire in guests the emotions that Dr. Armstrong felt when he read Robert Browning's poems. There are 4 marble busts in this room. The busts of Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett Browning are reproductions of busts by William Wetmore Story. The originals are housed in Casa Guidi, the Brownings' home in Florence, which is now a museum. The other busts are of John Kenyon and Penn Browning. John Kenyon was a distant cousin of Elizabeth Barrett's and a good friend of Robert Browning's. He was the person responsible for the 2 poets meeting. John Kenyon also helped the poets financially during the early part of their marriage, and when he died, he left them a sum of money which helped them to live more comfortably. Opposite John Kenyon's bust is a bust of Penn Browning, the only child of Robert and Elizabeth Barrett Browning. His full name was Robert Wiedemann Barrett Browning. However, as a young boy, he began to call himself Pennini or Penny, which was how he heard other children being referred to in Italian. Eventually, this was shortened to Penn, which became the family nickname for him that was used throughout his lifetime. Directly opposite the bronze doors is this life-size portrait of Robert Browning completed by Penn Browning in May of 1889, when Browning was 77 years old. The poet died unexpectedly in December of that year. Penn had grown up to become a professional artist and sculptor, therefore he also designed the painting's frame of bursting pomegranates covered in gold leaf. Beneath the portrait is the desk Robert Browning used when he returned to London after Elizabeth's death. As I said earlier, during their 15 years of marriage, Elizabeth Browning was by far the better known and more appreciated poet. However, Robert outlived her by 28 years, and eventually his poetry earned him the reputation of a sage. Yes, that is the term his contemporaries came to use for him. During his lifetime, Browning societies arose, which would gather to read and discuss his works. Today, Elizabeth Barrett Browning is best known for having written Sonnets from the Portuguese, a series of 44 love poems written during their courtship, while Robert Browning is considered one of the major Victorian poets. This is a significant reversal of their places during their lifetime. So Robert wrote some of his best poetry at this desk. You can see the desk in this watercolor painting on an easel nearby, which shows the poet's study at his home in DeVry Gardens. The inkwell exhibited on the desk and this chair, which originally belonged to Robert Browning's father, can also be seen in the picture. On the left side of the desk is an oil lamp which belonged to Robert Browning.